Hello and welcome to the 7-set video series on critical issues for purchasers of residential properties to be aware of in relation to building and pest matters. My name is Ryan Craig. I've been carrying out building inspections in the greater Brisbane and Brisbane area now for around 20 years. I'm a licensed building and pest inspector and have my own company, QC's Building Services. Throughout the time of carrying out these inspections, it's become very apparent to me and clear that there's an astounding, well, most purchasers have no idea of what the knowledge is that they should contain as part of their process of purchasing a residential property. The fact that they don't have this information puts them in serious danger and risks of emotional stress, suffering financial loss, purchasing properties that are not a reflection of how they were marketed to them. And the intention behind these 7-set videos is to educate buyers on what I believe they should know that is very critical and that can really assist them in minimizing those risks and put them in a position where they can be confident with their knowledge and take control of the process and not be a victim to deception and the manipulation which is so present and common amongst the vendor and marketing side. So the 7-set videos, the first one is all about the manner in which residential properties are not marketed accurately. So when they're marketed on the internet, what we've found quite astoundingly is that 50% of our clients, upon us instructing them to do searches to validate the nature in which it was marketed to them, and you can only do that by doing a search with the relevant council. When they do that, they're told that what they believed was a 4-bed, 2-bath because it was on the internet is actually incomplete building work, informal building work, illegal building work, and on council records, which is the only official record-keeping site, is only a block of land. So that's the first video. The second video will all be about the different service levels for building and pest inspection companies that you should be aware of and know about so you can select the right company to do the job for you. In terms of the quality and amount of information that you're going to receive and the type of reporting that is in the industry, we'll cover that. 3, vendor provided reports. It's a very common practice now for vendors to give purchasers copies of building and pest reports. We'll elaborate and explain some of the considerations you must be aware of about that. Number 4 is really good information about building and pest issues for the contract that's used for the purchase and sale of the property, and a very important search that you must make sure is done, which is not always done by legal conveyancers or yourself, which in essence can validate the nature of the product that you're buying and tell you exactly, hey, what am I buying? Because you can't rely on the marketing of it based on what we just said before, that 50% is wrong. Number 5 is the importance of getting the right time allocation on your contract for the building and pest clause to be done. We'll cover all of the issues in that in item 5. Number 6 is verbal advice. The perils of verbal advice, which is very commonly thrown to purchasers and claims are made. We'll cover this in video 6 about why you shouldn't act on verbal advice and how you can avoid getting caught out by acting on verbal advice, and what you can do to sort of avoid and make yourself in a better position to receive the information that's factual and accurate. Okay, so the last one is the one we're doing in this video. Really important one too, is about the need for you to make a formal request of the current vendor for them to disclose any known issues to you about the property that you're looking at purchasing in relation to any known building issue, historic, current or past, or timber pest issue. But the reality is this: in Queensland, Brisbane, the culture for buying a residential property is very much buyer beware. There's absolutely no legal obligation for the vendor of a property to disclose any issue they may know of to a purchaser, irrelevant of whether or not it could cost tens of thousands of dollars or cause any sort of financial devastation, and the fact that the vendor knows it, which we find quite astounding, really. And to put that into perspective, there's actually more protection for the purchaser of a motor vehicle in Queensland compared to that of a residential property, because when a vehicle is sold, there's a legal requirement for the seller of the vehicle to validate the nature and health of that product by getting a roadworthy certificate. So that's legally required on them. So therefore the purchaser has some form of protection. Not with a house. With a house, the seller can just put any kind of literature on the marketing, which is 50% of the time incorrect, and not have to validate anything of that nature. It's all on the purchaser, which I just don't understand the logic of that, but that's how it works. So you need to be aware of that and approach your property purchase from that aspect. The other thing to consider is quite opposite from there being any disclosure of any known issues. There's always, more often than not, a deliberate attempt from a vendor to conceal or not reveal any known issue that they are aware of about their property. How do we know this? Is because when we do the actual inspection and find a defect, part of the process for that to try and give the best information to our client is to ask the vendor about any history they know so we can give them accurate feedback, our client. At that point, we're normally told in length about the defect and the history and all of the factors that are relevant, which demonstrate to us that it's known by the vendor. However, when we discuss with our client, they have no idea about it and they're most shocked, and that just sort of confirms that there was no effort to disclose by the vendor. A common kind of thing that this might be in relation to is, say, termite issue, where the vendors had termites and they not disclosed that to the purchaser, which they probably should have, ethically certainly, but there's no legal obligation for them to. So how do we get around this, and how do we make sure that you can try and receive all of the information in the vendor's knowledge about the property so that you can make the most informed decision? Well, you have to make a formal request of the current vendor to disclose any known issues to you about past, current or future issues. Now, they don't have to answer that and they don't have to respond, but it's better than not doing anything because, as I say, they won't proactively tell you about. Very rare that a vendor will proactively disclose something, and if you don't ask, you're not giving yourself the best chance to know. So you must put a formal request in writing to the vendor to disclose any known issue. Things that you can ask for disclosure on is basically everything, but things that you can focus on maybe is any known timber pest issues, disclosure on any sort of subterranean drainage issues which may not be visible during inspection, information about all construction at the property, be it building plan certification, and critically provide me with a final inspection certificate for that work, demand that of the vendor, knowledge of any legal disputes that may have been happening or are potentially happening with any neighbours or anything else, and of course anything about any building defect or issue, past, present or current. The other thing we'd recommend you do is to, and that must be done in writing as well, so there's a formal record of it, and make sure you keep it because you put the onus onto them and then you're more likely to get a factual answer. The other thing that often gets missed when people buy a property is they forget to ask an owner to leave any relevant documentation. If it's a new building, there would have been a handover kit, copies of certification, colour paint codes, warranties for appliances, instruction manuals for appliances, but it's also relevant for existing structures that have had work done. Anything that the vendor has on file that's in writing about the property you're looking at purchasing, just ask them if they've got anything and make sure that it's left for you and passed on to you if you take ownership of the property, because it's really good information and it's not done as part of the process, and often vendors don't do it, and it should be because it's not hard to obtain. It's got some good stuff in there. So we hope this video was informative to you and you found it knowledgeable. There are another 6 in the series. Please watch all of them because they will make a big difference if you're coming up and buying a property purchase in the future about your knowledge, and it'll save you potentially emotion, stress. You'll get more truth to the matter about the property you're looking at buying, and it could save you from being suffering financial loss. Pass on the information about these videos to any friends or people you know that might be buying as well, because it is, as I say, excellent information to enable them to avoid being caught out. And I see it every day with my clients and it just frustrates me, and that's why I'm making these videos, to try and let everyone know about this so that there's better knowledge and that people aren't manipulated and they don't suffer in the current scenarios. Please view all other videos that we have on our YouTube site, which is QC's Building Services, and our website www.qcsbuildingservices.com.au. Great information on both of those platforms. Again, building matters and knowledge for purchasers about what you should know and how you can get better informed and knowledgeable to be in a better position to be confident and control the environment so your interests are better protected. Good luck with any property hunting you might be doing in the current situation or past. If we can help you out, we would certainly most welcome the opportunity, and thank you very much for watching this video.